state your name for the record.
My name is Judith Davies, and I'm here speaking also on behalf of the Sierra Club, the Airport Marina Group, and Grassroots Coalition. I was delighted to find the source report referred to by the Coastal Commission. There was so much information and so informative and new and positive for me to have that kind of input, and I just kept reading it, and I just want to thank you so much for all the work that went into that and everybody that was involved in that, because it's very positive and reinforcing that there are ways of dealing with sea level rise, and where we are with this, we have so many questions and concerns and worries, so thank you for that. Reading through it and comparing maps, seeing the variety and makeup of coastal areas and how they can be protected and or mitigated with these rapid changes. It's an invaluable source, and I'm relieved that it exists, and I'm thankful to all of those who put it together, and I will refer to it very often and spend time rereading it. The assessments of our coast, giving the projected 5-foot sea level rise, they use to calculate conditions and changes that may occur with all the maps going all the way down the coast. My concern is, of course, in our area, the Ballona Wetlands and what sea level rise would do to that, and also a potential project that is being presented in this final EIR for the Ballona Wetlands restoration. I was struck by something I read quickly through it on page 85. Let's see the next slide. Here, managers are becoming increasingly aware of the complex and dynamic impacts to sediment and water flow dynamics on coastal habitats, and are developing creative management strategies to mitigate these impacts. Examples of practices to manage in place for resilience range from the manual placement of sediments, thin layer sediment augmentation, the removal of levees around the estuarine marshes and dams upstream, improving flushing dynamics on the marsh, etc. So, you know, all of that feeds into more information as to how to approach wetlands with all the complex dynamics and forces that are, you know, always in motion and changing. So, struggling with this FEIR that finally was released in December, it seemed to me that in spite of its enormous length, something like 5,000 pages, which I, you know, am dealing with piece by piece, but very small pieces, I'm much more delighted and encouraged by reading your information. This seems to remain largely the same as it was presented over 10 years ago, with no really the predetermined choice of turning the wetlands largely into a salt marsh with full tidal inflow from the ocean. This makes no sense to me today with sea level rise certainty. The plan is based on a static engineered structural development, which seems to be more designed as a flood control basin or something, but I don't see how that will work either, really. If anything, it makes it more condensed, more possible for a sort of bore effect to go up the levees of Ballona Creek, and maybe affect even people further up the line, like in Culver City and so on, where I know that I've taken photographs myself of some of those areas and streets going across and bridges. They need reinforcing, and certainly with the berms and so on that they're suggesting with the other plan, it's going to affect all the way up the line. The wetlands are extremely important in the process of reducing global, we could go to the next slide. The wetlands are extremely important in the process of reducing global warming and climate change, we know. Wetlands capture and store in their plants, sediments, and soils 4 times more CO2 than even terrestrial forests. 90% of California's coastal wetlands have been destroyed, and Ballona is one of the last seasonal freshwater coastal wetlands. This, as I call big dig out, would not only take 10 years and cost $200 million, initial estimates, and would be releasing large amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere with the bulldozing and digging out, with the removal of these soils. It's it is also complicated by SoCal gas underground storage and extraction facilities. This is coming up. Extraction facilities that produce more methane and toxic gases, which would be released as these gas migrate, and SoCal Gas has extended their underground storage beyond what they're initially permitted to do under their CUP. So it would seem to me that the area was slowly built up with silt and sediment from the combined waters that flowed from Ballona Creek, Centinela Creek, and the LA River for thousands of years, really, till the LA River was redirected and increasingly cut off from the tidal inflow, which I had pointed out in an earlier slide. So I also present here a map of the LA watershed from Santa Monica Mountains running all the way down through the basin, through the aquifers that are underneath in the wetlands. So we haven't cleaned our waters that are coming down all through the watershed, and before we actually introduce water back into the Ballona wetlands or back into the ocean, we need to really take it hard and clean these storm drain waters, the pollutants, and so on. It's unacceptable to allow this to happen any longer, either for the coast or for any other possibility of discharging through the wetlands. I'd also finally like to refer to a recent article here. Scientists make discovery, would be the next slide, I think. It's a short, small picture there. But the article is here, and I'm going to submit the entire report, presentation rather. This was published November 5th, 2019, in which the study at University of Georgia looks at eddies and swells off the coast of California, showing that these swells transport nutrients far out into the deep ocean. Then we can also conclude, most likely we are also sending vast amounts of waste, garbage, toxic chemicals far out into the deeper regions of the ocean from the coast ourselves. We can't discuss any restoration, as I said, of the wetlands till we deal with this issue. These waters could then be used, if they were suitable, to be used, the fresh water to be used to recharge the aquifers at Ballona wetlands, create new habitats, and produce a thriving fresh water wetlands with only occasional tidal inflow, as it once was. It would produce the kind of buffer zone that is natural to wetlands for flooding, and it can be allowed and also encouraged to build up higher ground over time to counter against sea level rise conditions as it may occur in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Davies. Appreciate that.